Welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. News, culture, sports, politics, and everything else from a theological perspective.
It's all summed up in love.
What should I do? Tell me. God is good. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give me peace. Give me peace.
Put that in your theological pipe and smoke it. Hey, welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. Hope everyone's doing good. If you're watching on YouTube, click the subscribe button, like button, comment button. If you're on Apple, Google, Spotify, Pocket Cast, any of the other platforms, hit subscribe. I'm going to kind of get right into what I want to talk about today. And I say this, and I'll do my best to kind of hopefully maybe avoid just talking about politics every single episode, especially as we get closer and closer to the election, because that's all anyone's going to be talking about. And, you know, if you watch the debate, the vice presidential debate last night, it's fairly obvious that Pence won the night, unless you want to consider the fly the winner. But yeah, he basically cleaned the floor with Harris. Really wasn't that close. A lot of reasons why. And again, you can go listen to 1,000 other podcasts, 1,000 other people, dissect that debate and what happened. I want to talk about something different and something that I've been thinking about, that I think is missing in the world today when it comes to how we interact with each other, and the way people present themselves on social media, or even with interactions that you have with people, which these days we don't have as many because we're still kind of avoiding people because of COVID. But here's kind of the prevailing attitude, the prevailing way that people do things, especially in the United States, but I think it's a worldwide thing these days. And I'll say these phrases, and you'll listen, and you'll say, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Not saying you agree that that's what should happen, but I think this is the way the world kind of turns these days. And so you have this prevailing attitude that I'm going to get mine, right? I got to get mine. I know what I'm worth, so I'm going to go out and get what I'm worth. I'm going to go out and grab that brass ring. I'm going to go out and fight for what's mine. I know what I'm worth. I'm going to go get it. I'm special, right? So I'm a special person, and I'm worthy of praise and honor and respect. And you're going to respect me because of me. I'm not going to do anything to get respect. I'm not going to accomplish anything that will allow you to respect me. You're just going to respect me because I'm worthy of respect. I'm going to look out for myself. You look out for number one. There's a great line from Back to School, an old Rodney Dangerfield movie. It's you look out for number one and be careful not to step in number two. But I'm going to look out for number one. I'm what's most important in this world. I'm what's most important in my life is me, and I'm going to look out for me, right? And people are either going to get in line with that, or you're going to get out of the way. So you want to join me in making me special? You want to help me be special? You get in line. If not, you need to get out of my way, because it's about me, and I'm going to make myself of utmost importance, right? Don't hinder me. Don't try to stop me from being number one, from getting what's mine, from being special. And really, there are some good elements to that. I don't want to dissect it too much. There's nothing wrong with fighting for what you believe in. There's nothing wrong for striving for good things. Although now, in today, we have some kind of teaching coming against that. There are some people that will say that striving for perfection, working hard to attain something, they're going to tell you that that's racist. You could look at the Smithsonian, you could look at critical race theory, you can look at some of the beliefs of Black Lives Matter, and they're going to teach that some of these work hard, strive for perfection, doing things so you can get things, they're going to say that that's racist, that that's part of white supremacy. But if you strip it away, the teaching now is, I don't even have to work hard for those things. They're mine. The respect is mine. The honor is mine. The fame is mine just because I'm me. And that's kind of a thing that people are doing now. We make everything about us. We make everything about what we can get and who we are, and it's about me. I'm going to get mine. And you can see that on social media. You can see it on Instagram. You can see it on TikTok. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it on Twitter. It's always about me. It's always about me getting mine, and you're going to respect me, and I got to throw the ball to my dog, so give me a second. So yeah, I'll be throwing the ball for a few minutes here. So if you're watching, you get to see it. If you're listening and you hear a pause, it's probably because I'm having to take care of my dog. So all the stuff that I said, got to get yours. I'm worth something. I'm going to go grab it. I'm special and worthy and of praise and honor. I'm going to look out for number one. You get in line or get out of the way. Don't hinder me. Some of it sounds good. It sounds American. And people are being taught that. And what's also being taught, which is kind of a contrast or a juxtaposition to this, but still part of that whole mentality, what we're teaching is if you don't get respect, if you don't get what you think you deserve, if you're not where you think you need to be, it could be because of racism or classism or sexism or some other intersectionality thing that's hindering people, right? You're worthy of respect. You're worthy of everything. And you're not only special and worthy of respect, but if you're not there, you're also a victim because you're not there. So it's because of your race that you're not where you need to be. It's because of your sex that you're not where you need to be. It's because of your class or your sexuality or your age or whatever the case may be. So you're special. It's all about you. And if you're not where you need to be, it isn't because of you didn't do anything. It's because somebody's oppressing you. And so we have all of this stuff just kind of bouncing up against each other. It's contradictory. It makes living really kind of difficult. And for people that are older, they're sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, that's not the way it used to be. There used to be a different kind of mentality. And what we're getting to now where everyone wants to have honor and everyone wants to have fame and everyone wants to have prestige, we're moving back to things that had happened in the ancient world, and those things were changed and turned on their head. And I'm gonna read something from the Bible. It's Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 through 8. I'm gonna read this and then kind of talk a little bit more and think that this is where we need to start moving a little bit more towards this. We were there and we've moved away from it. And this is what it says in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 through 8. It says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. Have this mind among yourself, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant. Being born in the likeness of men and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross." That act of Jesus Christ dying on a cross changed the notion of humbleness forever. Forever. In the ancient world, humbleness was considered weak. If you were humble, if you looked out for others above yourself, if you considered others more important, if you didn't like the limelight, if you weren't arrogant, and if you weren't boastful about who you were, that was considered weak. And the ancient leaders, they wrote autobiographies. You can go read the introductions of some of them, some of the generals and some of the Romans back in the day, and you would read them and you'd say, who do these guys think they are? They're just bragging on themselves the whole time. That's what they did. And in those days, that wasn't considered weird. It was considered what you're supposed to do, because above all things, the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, everyone leading up to Jesus Christ's death, they considered honor and fame and respect and almost a form of arrogance to be worthy, and they considered humbleness a negative quality. And it wasn't until Jesus Christ died on the cross, and the cross, the method of death that Jesus suffered on the cross with crucifixion, was considered the most humiliating, brutal death that anyone could have. I mean, they used to do different things. They used to burn people, behead people, hang people, or crucify them. And crucifying them was the worst of the worst. And that's what Jesus suffered. And his followers at the time were thinking there's no way this is going to happen to him, because he's the Messiah. He's the promised one. And they had a different vision of what the Messiah was going to be like. But yet Jesus died on the cross and suffered a humiliating death. And he did it to give his life for other people. And he humbled himself to become a servant for others. And at that moment, that's when humility, it changed everything. It changed humbleness from being a negative quality to being a virtue, to being something that is to be strived for. And when Paul wrote this verse to the Philippians, a few years later after the death of Jesus Christ, he is putting a really fine point on this. He is solidifying the importance of being humble, of being willing to empty yourself and of your own vanity and of your own honor and of your own search for fame and fortune, and to serve others. And that's something that we need to strive for. And so Paul is saying this is what your world should look like. This is how you should act. This is how people should act. Is don't be selfish. Don't be arrogant. Consider others above yourself and be concerned for others more than yourself. That's the mindset that believers are supposed to have, number one. If you're a Christian, I'm not paraphrasing anything. I'm not interpreting anything. That doesn't need any interpretation. This is what it says. Listen to what he says. It says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit. Okay, every one of us, if you're a believer and you're listening to me, you're guilty of that. If you're a non-believer, you're definitely guilty of that. We're all guilty of that. And what we need to do is strive to be what Jesus is, what this verse is saying. So do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility, count others more significant than yourselves. So that means everyone that you come in contact with, you need to consider them above yourself. They're more important than you are. They're more important than your needs. They're more important than your wants. They're more important than your honor and your fame and your arrogance. You need to consider them more important than you do. And then he goes, let each of you look not only to his own interest, but to the interest of others. Think about other people before you think about yourself. Doesn't say don't take care of yourself, but it says to think about others first. And I think humbleness is part of that. And boy, do we really need that in today's world, in today's society. We need to have some humbleness. We need to have an ability to look to other people before we look to ourselves. We need to have the ability to care about other people before we care about ourselves. So Paul writes this, and he's again saying, don't be selfish, don't be arrogant. Think about others. Be concerned for others. That's a mindset that we need to have. And in the Bible, and what Paul says is you have that mindset if you have Jesus. So if you're a believer, that mindset is yours in Christ Jesus, because that's who Jesus was. That's who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to have that mindset. Jesus Christ was God, and he died on the cross for others. And that's the mindset we're supposed to have as believers, is we're supposed to say, no matter who we think we are, or what we've accomplished, our goal is to help others, to love others, to serve others, to think of others before we think about ourselves in every area of life. And if we could do that, if we can humble ourselves, this world's going to be a better place. And that's real hard to do when it comes to social media. That's real hard to do when it comes to Instagram and to Facebook and to Twitter, because what do you put on, Facebook? You put your Facebook or social media or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat, you put your best foot forward, right? You're going to take 10 selfies, and you're going to pick the one that makes you look the best. Right? You're going to accomplish something, and when you accomplish something, you're going to talk about it. You're going to embellish a little bit. You're going to brag a little bit. You're going to make it sound a little bit better than it really is, because you want to look good and feel good and sound good, because you see everybody else's picture, and everyone else looks really happy, and everyone else looks like they got everything together, and everyone else looks like they're accomplishing all their dreams, and they're going on dream vacations, and they have their dream cars, and they're getting the new jobs, and here you are. So you've got to kind of do the same thing. So you puff yourself up because you want the respect, and you want those likes, and you want those hearts, and you want those comments, and we do that, and at some point we need to kind of maybe take a step back and humble ourselves to consider others before ourselves, humble ourselves to elevate others at the expense of us. We need to model what Jesus did, and that's not just for believers. I think humbleness is a good attitude for anyone, to be a little bit more humble, and I think another part of humbleness is something, and we'll end on this part, but I think another part of humbleness is admitting that you don't know. Admitting that you don't know the answers, admitting that there are people that might be smarter than you when it comes to an issue. You see this all the time, again, on Facebook and Twitter, especially. And again, I don't want to really talk about politics, but let's just talk issues. So many people will post something on Facebook or Twitter, or do something, and they'll say, climate change, there's no debate. and if you vote this way or think this way, then you're wrong and there's no debate. And we can't have a discussion. And someone might say, well, have you ever considered this? And it starts an argument. It starts a debate. It starts a fight. And it's like, no, hang on a second. It's okay to say that you're not a scientist, so you don't know everything. It's okay to say that you're not a politician and you don't know all the things. You're not an economist, so you don't know what the right tax rate is. You're not a doctor, so you don't know what the right thing to do for COVID is. And what do we do when it comes to that kind of stuff? We always gravitate to the things that line up with our own personal views. So if you're someone who thinks that item A should be handled in one way, that's who you're going to gravitate to, even though there might be other people that think that there's other ways to handle it. You're not going to listen to them because you already have your preconceived notions. Why? Because you're arrogant and you're selfish and you're vain and it's about you. And so maybe take a step back. Let's strive to be humble. And when you're humble and you act like Jesus, you help others. You love others, you serve others, and you consider their needs above your own. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, and I'm not saying I'm there and I'm like, you can't sit there and brag about being humble, because the second you brag about being humble, you're not humble. But I think that's something to consider and to strive for, is to be more like Jesus, to try not to be selfish, to try not to be conceited, to be humble, to think about others before you think about yourselves, and to love people and to be nice to people. And I think if we could do that, we can change the world. We can change, the way things go. And it always starts with one person. It always starts with you. It starts with me. If I can be more selfless, if I could be more loving, if I could be more caring, if I could be nicer, then that's going to affect the people that I come in contact with, my wife and my kids and the people I work with and my friends. And then guess what? Maybe they'll be nicer. And if they're nicer, it's going to affect their circle of people, their friends and their family and their relatives and their people they work with. And then it will grow from there. Right? Sometimes it's hard to, the world needs more love. Yes, the world needs nicer people. Yes, the world needs to stop being so divisive, and we need to stop fighting about politics, and we need to stop fighting about every single issue. But I can't change anything. That attitude's defeated. Yes, you can change something. Change your world. Change just your sphere of influence, and they can change their sphere of influence, and that's how things can grow. So, that's my theological pipe thing for today, is just be humble. I think humbleness is something that we need to strive for. I think it's something that the world needs a lot more of, and it's a virtue. It wasn't a virtue. It became a huge virtue after Jesus Christ, and we're sort of losing it now. Culture's moving away from it, and I think we need to bring back humbleness. So be humble. Think about other people, love other people, take care of other people, take care of each other. So put that in your theological pipe and smoke it, and be nice, and we'll see you next time.
Well, bye.